So what does Jesus mean? Whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. So again, let's take Lazarus as an example. So at this point, so picture Lazarus alive before he died in John 11, before he got sick and died. He's spiritually dead. He's a spiritual person inside a natural body, right? But he's spiritually dead. So then he dies in his body. So now in the grave, he is a spiritually dead person. And of course, at this point, because he believes Jesus will do this, that he's in paradise. And this, of course, is a different Lazarus than the rich man in Lazarus. But this Lazarus is in paradise, right? His body's in the grave. He's dead. So when Jesus raises him from the dead, remember, he can't save his spirit yet. He can't give him a glorified body yet. But when he raises him from the dead, of course, who Lazarus is in his spirit, in paradise, all of a sudden he shoots out of paradise, comes back into his body, and now he's alive on the earth again, but he's still spiritually dead in his spirit. In other words, Jesus, he could not fix that yet. So now, as we progress through time, of course, Jesus dies and rises again, and of course there's no reason to believe that Lazarus is still not alive at this time, because it's only, a matter of, by the time he is, in John 11, raises Lazarus from the dead, it's close to the end of Jesus' ministry. So say a couple weeks later or whatever, that Jesus dies and rises again. Well, of course, after Jesus does that, what happens? Lazarus then gets life in his spirit. He then now gets born again. But he's still in a body from the first man, Adam, because Jesus couldn't do that yet. So now Lazarus lives out his life as a born-again man, but then Lazarus dies. Now remember, the verse says, whoever lives and believes in me shall never die, but Lazarus died. He died in his physical body, and of course, his spiritual body went to heaven. His spirit man went to heaven, and of course, now in the future, when Jesus comes back for his church, then as soon as Jesus comes back, that's when Lazarus will get his glorified body. Remember, right now, the only people who have their glorified body are people who were in paradise when Jesus, after he paid the price in hell, he went over and said, hey boys, girls, the one you've been waiting for, I'm him, let's go. He took captivity captive. All those got glorified. Matthew, at the end of Matthew, has an interesting verse where it talks about, and some of those dead saints walked around Jerusalem. Well, isn't that pretty amazing? They came back into their bodies, if there was a body to come back into, and that body was glorified. And of course, eventually they went on with Jesus to heaven. But they received their glorified bodies. But everybody who died after Jesus resurrected and are in heaven, they're waiting for their glorified body. So when Jesus comes back for the church, that's when they get their glorified body. This is 1 Thessalonians. They come back with Jesus. So at that point, Lazarus is then going to get his glorified body. So then Lazarus will have all of life, right? His physical body was healed. Then he got life in his spirit. Then he got life because he received his glorified body. Praise God. So, but the point is that had to happen in stages. God had to meet everyone where they were at, and then as they progressed forward, believing, eventually they received the fulfillment of every promise.